So hello friends, here another episode on this comments on the video by Amit Goswami, the quantum view of God, and this time here from Koh Chang, a very beautiful island in Thailand, and I just had a talk with a Thai lady here about the Thai idea about God. And it's certainly nothing like quantum, but I can say here in Thailand I can see the most happy people, the most honest people, the least material oriented people, but no quantum view I can see. So I think there is some big defect in Amit's way of presenting God, and in fact he never talks about what is the quantum view of God. He's just making a lot of arguments against the material view of the world, but he's not talking about what is actually the quantum view of God. This is missing everywhere, and actually it boils down to some funny ideas, like Wayne Dyer said, "I am God," but that's about it. So now what Amit is saying is not wrong. It's just misplaced. It's just putting assumptions on things that are not correct, and that these ideas of quantum physics, they would give an idea about what is God, is just basically wrong, and that's why I'm talking about this, not because the ideas are wrong, but the assumption that this is giving us an idea about God. This is wrong, and it's also harmful for those who really live it or try to live it. And as I say, he's making an affront against the materialists, and really he's saying materialist point of view is now putting a threat on all the more conservative nations that still believe in a God, as he says, on the throne. Of course nobody, he says, still believes in this who is more educated, but those people, once they understood, that's what he's saying, once they understood the quantum concept of God, they would not feel so much threatened by the materialistic point of view, but they would see that that the quantum view of God is basically bringing them into a realm of thinking that is not putting the pressure on them, and so they would not have to react with terrorism and things like that. It's a very, very naive idea that terrorism could be basically fought or made unnecessary by the quantum view of God. So, but he is really mixing two things, and that's the world of energy, the world in information, and the world of the soul, as I call it. And he mixes all in one, because really he and most scientists today have no idea about the informational matrix. They see matter and they see the spirit, so they just see a two-sided point of view where there is nothing in between. There's matter and there is the spirit. I call information exactly what is in between, and he doesn't have this concept. Imagine, he's talking to so many people, he doesn't have this concept of information as the intermediate between energy and matter and the spirit. So let's hear what he has to say about this part, how he's seeing the difficulty, and you will see also that he has no answer to this.
Consciousness have to be non-material. We must have a non-material component within us. We have a material body, no doubt, but there must also be a non-material consciousness. Unfortunately, scientists see a paradox in that also, and scientists are right. The paradox is the kind of thinking that we are now doing is again dualism, very close to how Descartes posited the mind and matter dualism. And ever since Descartes, we have known that this is a major weakness of that view, which is that how does a non-material mind, non-material consciousness interact with matter? They have nothing in common, so they need a mediator to interact. But any mediator will have to use a signal containing energy. So energy has to go out of the material world into another world, or energy has to come back from another world to material world. But any of these effects are never seen. The energy of the material world itself is always a constant in any process. It never goes out of material world, never comes into the material world from any other world. So this law of energy conservation is violated in any kind of dualistic thinking, and this is why dualistic thinking is not scientific. So this was a major problem of accepting this consciousness solution of how quantum possibilities are converted to actual events of experience, which was first proposed by John von Neumann, a great scientist.
So he's saying there's a problem. There's the dualistic way of thinking, which he says is not scientific, but again, he's not giving a solution to this. He's saying, yes, we are coming back to the idea of Descartes, body and mind, the dualistic way, but he's not giving a solution. What's the new way of really quantum? And in fact, what I'm teaching, when you look at informational medicine, there's only websites coming up from us basically, is that information is the intermediate, and it's not energy, and it's not the soul. So I make a different. There's all these phenomena that he calls psychic, for example, parasitic phenomena, or any phenomena that is not non-local, any communication that takes no time and energy between whatever photons or people. He basically doesn't have a concept what is the intermediate between the body and the soul, and I call it the information field. So now the information field, he's saying there is a problem if we want to make a connection between the physical and the consciousness. We would have to have energy going out of the physical into somewhere else, and then coming out of somewhere else back into the physical, and that's never observed. That's the law of the conservation of energy. Actually, it's not a law, that's the definition of energy. You see, you have to understand, it's not a law, that's how energy is defined. But interestingly, and again, this he doesn't know, there is something else that never really has been addressed by physics, I think, in the proper way. That's potential energy. That's there, but it's not in transformation. In actual transformation, it's a possibility, a potential. And so this potential energy is really not energy in the sense of all other forms of energy that are basically change. Energy is change. So potential energy is not just another form of energy, it's something completely different. And this is what I call information. So whenever you have something that is potential energy, that can set something in motion, send something, change something, you have potential energy, you have information. So where do we have this? In many forms, but the forms that are really not recognized by physics are the regular information in books. You all know when you have the right information, you set things in motion that would not be possible without this information, without this potential energy. Same is, of course, with simple things of like for example love, uh, this other person is an information for you, and this this other person is there, sets impossible things into motion. You can travel to another country, you can live in another country, you can be days without food, you can abandon all your little limitations that you thought it is impossible to give up before, just because of this potential energy which is manifest in this other person. And the process is love. So there is something, and this is the potential energy in all its forms. And a symbol is potential energy. A book is potential energy. Not only an apple on a tree is potential energy. So again, he's just saying there is something. We need now more coming back to a dualistic point of view, but really it's not really scientific. But again, he's not giving any answer to this. So, and he also in this video, as I say, he's not saying really what is God. He's just giving the normal examples of what are indications of something that is different. Like for example, two people meditating together, and then you put them separate in two different Faraday cages, and then you see some synchronicity of brain waves. This has been all given in the Capras, the new Tao of physics, 30 years ago. Actually, I read it here in Thailand in a hammock 30 years ago, but still now they are giving these examples. But again, it's not saying something about God. It's just giving you an indication there is something else. But what is God? What do we need to do with God? This is what is the question of religions, and that's what fills your heart if you live it. And his quantum activism will not inspire change. And I just let you quickly hear what he's saying about this quantum activism. What's his actually view? What he will change and what he can do.
Fellow sentient beings, because we are one at some non-ordinary state of consciousness. We really are one. You and I are not separate ultimately. And therefore your good would do me good also. This ethics is inborn in quantum thinking. Cannot be excluded from the way we live. And this is just one example of how quantum principles enables us to re-establish
what it boils down to.
living within
all
values and virtues.
Two photons communicating from two different Faraday cages. Once we understand this, then we will understand that wars are not good anymore and not necessary, or not make no sense, because we are all one. So that's the American virus. We are all one. We are all basically the same. It's this what I call the spiritual communism. But really, this will not change the world, because we see this everywhere. I mean, in a football stadium, we see we are one, at least with one part of the side. We switch on all the same TV when there's some soap opera. I mean, not everybody, but almost everybody. We all go to war together. So it's group phenomena is the oldest experience of people, and actually they want this and they need this, and this need of being in sync, like sheep, like birds, like fish, is not the answer. It's actually where we come from. It's not going back to this feeling of oneness, of moving in sync like a flock of sheep. It's not the answer. It's the past. So what really has to change again and again, like many times before, when we were worshipping the golden calf, when we were worshipping the Führer for being an authority. We have to come back to the real authority, to the one, to God. in all its names, of course, but there is only one God. And not only have this in our mind, you see, that's important with some quantum examples behind it. We have to live it, we have to pray, we have to get up early, we have to sing, we have to recite it in our mind, we have to get up with a prayer, we have to go to bed with a prayer, we have to make it the innermost, most important part of our life, to know there's a God that's on a throne, that's on a cloud, that's so much bigger than we are little beings, that He is the creator of everything, that He is above eternity and infinite space, and that He is just so much more wise than we are. And it's not that we are one with Him, that He is basically on our level. Forget about this, because this ruins your life. This is going nowhere. That's just the American virus. And that's my mission. That's my mission and my vision, to bring this, as many before have done this, where there was some deviation, where we put God on our level, or the level of the Führer, or the level of the golden calf. It's not going anywhere. So this is the main thing why I'm talking here to Amit, and maybe I'll have the right and the possibility in Gramado in April, when he speaks on the same conference there like me in Brazil. Maybe we can make a podium discussion about this if he feels like. And I know in Brazil there's still a lot of traditional values. I'm not sure it will go so well for this quantum view of God. So don't take me wrong. I want one thing and one thing only. And maybe you get the message.